Hi, hi, I'm Seth Staple. I'll be doing an argumentative speech on why we never went to the moon. You told me to pick a hard topic. I accepted that challenge. So, um, first I'm going to start off why I believe it makes sense that we never went to the moon. Personally, my beliefs behind it is I actually don't believe we went to the moon. So this is actually kind of going to be interesting. I hope it works out well. Um, my beliefs behind it is the reason that the USA faked that we went to the moon was because in the time that we were going to try and reach the moon, we were in the space race with Russia, which was also part of the Cold War. And while we were in the middle of all this, the USA wanted to come out being like the top dog, right? We wanted to be the big guys. We did not want Russia to win. So USA got a bunch of people together and hoaxed the whole thing so that Russia believed that we went to the moon and never had any problems, right? Okay, so that way Russia has always believed that we went to the moon. So I mean, then we're more technological advanced and we could fight the Cold War better because more the Cold War was just about like rumors about, bombs and missiles and stuff, which once we said that we went to the moon, we could then build a missile or do whatever we wanted, right? Because if we build a rocket that went to the moon, then what could we do to Russia, right? Okay, now some people's best argument against why we didn't is their argument is that there were so many people on set trying to make sure that this thing came together and happened. Well, my argument against how all those people never, told anybody that it was a lie is that I think most of them believed that they were actually going to the moon. I think that the government had tricked them into just believing that they went to the moon. I mean, each of those people had their own individual jobs, right? They were building the rocket, or they were just monitoring one little part on the rocket. And I believe that they probably sent the rocket up into orbit, and it orbited for a few days, and then they came back down, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense. So, I think that the whole team in NASA either believed that they actually went to the moon because they all were just kind of in their own cubicle, right? They couldn't see that way or that way. They just knew what they were doing right now. And as for NASA to try and fake stuff like once they got up to the moon, they could easily fake the rocket's temperature or like the time or like a camera, right? I mean, we had Hollywood. So I believe that most of the people actually believed that they went to the moon while they were working on it. And I think that there were a few people that knew they weren't going to the moon. I mean, how good is the government at having their employees keep secrets? There's plenty of military people that can come home and aren't allowed to share anything that they do, right? I mean, not allowed to talk to their wives or their husbands or their children or their grandparents or anything about what they did over the weekend for work, right? I mean, so how hard could it be to do that for a few people over at NASA? My other, sorry. My visual is a movie called Conspiracy Theory. It's on Netflix. It's actually a TV show, so you go on there and it says Conspiracy Theory, and go to Netflix. On Netflix it says Conspiracy Theory. You go down there and there's one that says Moon Landing Hoax. I don't have time to play that or means to play that, so it's a really good visual. I hope you go and watch it because there's a lot of crazy stuff on it. And I'm going to bring up some of the major points that he brings up. One of them is the pictures that they've taken. They have weird angles of lighting. I mean, the only source of light on the moon would be the sun, right? I mean, why would they need any other lights to take pictures on the moon? They were just taking pictures, so it would be the sun. So there's a few pictures where light is coming in two angles and hits this object and casts a shadow this way and this way. And so how would there be two light You know, how would there be two light sources on the moon bright enough to make a shadow the same? Also, there's pictures of the shadows. There's all the shadows are going that way, and then there's one shadow that's going the wrong way. I mean, just silly mistakes like that. And then there's also a thing on there where it's actual footage, and they show an astronaut hopping along, right? And a piece of his equipment falls off and falls straight to the ground. It's not slow. It doesn't like bounce up at all. It just falls straight to the ground like gravity on Earth. While he's still hopping along, all no gravity like. And then that piece of, I think it was a radio or something that just fell off and hit the ground. There's like a lot of good ones. I'm just gonna hit the few good ones since we only have 2 minutes left of this speech. There's a scientist on there that says, and he's like highly qualified, that says that there's no way that anybody could even travel that far. I mean, the radiation from the sun would just completely destroy them, which makes perfect sense. I mean, the sun is radiation, right? And we have an atmosphere to keep us safe. And once you're out there in space where there's no air and nothing to keep you safe from the UV rays, it makes perfect sense that you would come back and have health problems after all that radiation, right? Also, there's a video of, what's his name? Sorry. Neil Armstrong flying the lunar lander, right? He's flying it so that he can learn how to do it on the moon. And in the first try, he goes up and he loses all control, and you'll see this in the movie. He loses all control and he ejects and he's fine. But if he went without training and didn't even know how to do it on our gravity in Earth, how would he ever figure out how to do it on the gravity of the moon successfully? I mean, he only had one try to try and figure it out, right? Okay, and one last thing. Why have we never been back in 40 years? 40 years later, we have never been back to the moon. That one time we landed, nobody's gone except for China says that they've landed a rover on there and took videos, which, I mean, who believes China? You could believe China, or maybe not, I don't know. Nobody's been back. And you'd think that 40 years ago we didn't even have a cell phone, right? So how could they possibly build a rocket that would land on the moon and still have connection, live feed, all the way back to Earth? Okay, that's just, how does that work 40 years ago? And now it's 40 years later and we've never been back. You're telling me that scientists don't want to run experiments on the moon to try and figure out things about space? It's a little bit weird to me that we've never been back 40 years from now. I mean, it would be so much easier to return back now than it was 40 years ago. If we could do it 40 years ago, we could do it like it was walking to your friend's house today, right? But no, never been back.